chief security architect at Dell, and I've been involved with, I do security obviously, but I've been involved with DevOps for 3-4 years now, and cloudy stuff like that. And this panel came together when I was at another conference with Wim, and I said, we need a panel about DevOps and risk and security, and he said, great idea, let's make it happen.
Right. I'm Patrick Dubois. I'm kind of used to be in Shut up. I used to be very involved in security, identity, and access management. And a couple of years ago, I had the fun of starting the first DevOps days actually here in Ghent. And since then, the world took off on DevOps, and that's probably why I'm on the panel. So yeah.
Everything what he said, except that my name is Chris. My involvement in security was about a decade ago when I worked on the OSSTM, and then I gave up. Yes, sorry for that. But yeah, I was also involved in setting up the very first DevOps days in Ghent, and I'm still doing that. So.
My name is Alex Hutton. I am the Director of Operational and Technology Risk for, we're like the smallest of the too big to fail banks in the United States. And I guess operations risk, how many of you are familiar with the Basel Accord? Yeah, all right, great, thanks. So you know that operations risk has a technology risk is a silo within that context. So I have product and project risk, as well as vendor management risk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I like technology risk. I've been in infosec to some degree since '94, doing various things. Anything else? No.
What? I've got.
Oh, you have your own?
I have one too. So maybe we should start with a quick definition because maybe not everybody is familiar with the term DevOps. Raise your hand if you feel a little iffy, or raise your hand if you feel very confident using the term. All right, so Patrick, since you coined the term, could you maybe give a synopsis?
No, he didn't.
Okay, I'm not going to get into this right now. Patrick, would you give a synopsis?
So the first thing is there is no definition. And the reason is because once you write a definition down, I found that it's hard to expand and people take that as the holy word. So what it means to me, I can explain, so not a definition. It's collaborating across the traditional company silos to achieve a better business result. And that stems from the fact that I used to do different roles in an organization, and just because I happened to be in another part, the other part looked at me and said, well, you can't know anything about our side. So it's that collaboration that I think is the key on DevOps. But with it, there comes a lot of techniques and technology. Like in Agile, the collaboration part and the talking and getting people together was complemented with TDD and all that stuff. So in DevOps, we have things like collaboration, automation, monitoring of metrics, and sharing. That's the CAMS acronym. It's not a definition, but it's kind of the embodiment of a lot of things happening inside the DevOps space.
You forgot the S actually stands for security?
It's sharing. But isn't that the same?
So yeah, I actually wanted to introduce the acronym this week as cracking, audit automation, and monitoring and security. But CAMS as culture or collaboration, automation, metrics, and sharing, that's also a very good definition for me.
I see it as a process to get something very complex to market and with customer feedback so that you can iterate and evolve as quickly as possible.
I agree with what these folks said, but I want to add on that. From a security perspective, I think the most important part for me is the culture aspect, and particularly the actually working with other people without being an asshole. And you know, I can be an asshole. I fully admit it. But as an industry, we can be really bad about working well with others. In fact, I mean, who has seen a T-shirt at DEF CON or anything else that says, doesn't play well with others, and people wearing that with pride? That's not a good thing when you're trying to get a product out the door and trying to actually work with people to get things done. And I see DevOps as being the antithesis of that and actually trying to get things done the right way.
Okay, so that's 4 different takes on that. I would add something slightly different, with a slightly different angle. I think the culture aspect is very important, but having done a lot of operations stuff, more on the Defender side, I have seen so many times this, in your talk last night you talked about not having these sort of special case systems and just being able to like homogenize stuff. There is so much ad hoc cowboy sysadmin and network operations out there. What I see is like taking a scientific approach where you define what you're going to do and then you measure it and then you make refinements.
Yeah, very much as a risk manager, I very much embrace that because when you're gathering intelligence about not to be technical, exogenic and endogenic, but outside information, intel that you want to process, threat intel and so forth, and inside the endogenic, which is information about our systems, losses, and so forth. There are two things when you build out your KRIs, your metrics programs, that you need to really worry about. One is visibility, can I see everything? And the other is variability, deviation from expected norms. And in a large enterprise, variability, most enterprises just throw up their hands, are like, variability will happen, right? We don't know. We don't know that, we don't know this. Stuff gets out to production, and we have no idea what it is and who owns it. I see DevOps as a great way, as a risk manager, to understand all of the pertinent information around an asset object that I need. Well, endogenic information.
Okay, so one thing that I've heard many times when I try to sell the DevOps idea to security-minded folks is this sort of notion like, oh yeah, that looks fine for Etsy and these kind of like web application companies that are all like hip with their new Ruby stuff, but that's not going to work for my environment. Like I know specifically, you two guys come from more of the developer world. What could you say to this audience, like if you're working in a complex environment, maybe with some legacy systems and so on and so forth, about kicking off that cultural change and what the payback could be? That was rambling and unprepared.
Well, why would it be different that whether you're a 2-person, 1,000-person, or a new shop or a legacy shop, why would collaboration hurt you? If that's the core of DevOps, like what would make that difference? So as a security person, from experience, I know we're often treated as a silo, as the one saying yes or no, kind of like the sysadmin saying yes or no. But getting the dialogue going for whoever in the company, like that's not unique in whatever company you are. Like that dialogue is what drives it. You can maybe think about the infrastructures they're building, whether that's not for you or not your level, or if you're managing only 2 systems, whether you should have the same capacity as doing 1,000 systems. But at the core, the collaboration aspect, that's no different. And what tools or whatever level of the tools or whatever level of the concepts you apply will vary on your situation. But again, collaboration, that's not the difference.
So yeah, the biggest part is about culture, and a culture can be in a big and a small organization. It's going to be much more difficult to actually get good culture in a big organization, but it's still possible. But the biggest problem with culture I run into in large organizations is the fact that they are not a group. They're just a bunch of people setting up a tier for each other, both on working together and on security and all that kind of things. And one of the remarks, yeah, we cannot do that because we are not an online company and we're not doing this and we have regulations and all that stuff. A lot of that boils down to, well, yes, you have regulations, but how are you dealing with them? Are you actually literally have to follow rules, or do you just need to prove a couple of things, and you need to prove how you work? And lots of times that burns down to breaking down security theater and actually implementing real security. And I think that's a good opportunity for everybody.